Hi, welcome to Higher Ed Matters. This is Josh Bestromowitz. I'm the enrollment marketing consultant for MediaCross. With us today, we've got Dr. Jillian Farrell. She is the Associate Vice President of Institutional Advancement. And we have got Darian Duggar. She is a strategist with MediaCross, and she was the project lead with the Sherman College of Chiropractic. And today we're going to be discussing embracing marketing in higher education. So welcome to you both. Dr. Jillian, we'll start with you. So tell us a little bit about life as an AVP for institutional advancement.
Well, it consists of a lot more meetings than I originally thought. So that is that component to it. But what's really cool about institutional advancement is we are the external faces of Sherman College. So marketing, communications, our fundraising team, any continuing education courses we offer, as well as alumni relations. So that gives us the distinct pleasure of working with our admissions team as they develop marketing for their recruitment. So we kind of get to help them develop that as we go forward with that, which is really an exciting thing for us since I used to work in admissions.
Fantastic, excellent. So we'll talk a little bit about currently the project that we're working with Sherman College of Chiropractic, but it is a mammoth of a project, right? There's a lot of components to it. So tell me a little bit about, as you all were thinking about, taking on a new campaign and really putting yourself further into the market. What was that process in terms of coming to terms with how big of scope this project was? And how did you, educate the community that this investment was the right investment for you?
A big part of it was previously, before coming to institutional advancement, I was with our continuing education team, and I had dabbled, and I use the term dabbled, with some like lead gen type stuff. We had developed some landing pages to kind of create an email marketing list. So we knew those people were interested in what we had to offer. And I thought, well, we aren't doing that for our admissions team right now. We are not offering that in a digital capacity in any way. So once I came over to institutional advancement, I got with Kendra, who is our AVP for admissions. And I said, we need to find somebody who can help us because we don't have these talents on our team. And here's why I think it's important. Obviously, technology drives the world now. It's a very different world than it was even 10 years ago. Here's why I think we should be in the digital realm doing some marketing for our recruitment. And let's try and find somebody and see if we can get administration to be like, yes, you need that. So we did, and kind of worked together, and we have the same boss. So that was helpful. Kind of tag team that sales pitch, and it worked out for us.
Awesome, thank you. Well, Darian, as the project lead, like we mentioned, this was a pretty robust project. What was, as you approached this process, what were some of the things that you did to kind of prepare yourself for taking on a project of this scope and working with the Sherman team?
Yeah, so taking on this project, it was very interesting because I was fresh to MediaCross. I had only been with the company for a month, like right at a month. And then we're like, oh, we're getting Sherman College of Chiropractic. And I was like, I know absolutely nothing about chiropractic. So this is going to be really interesting. But I was excited because I like to dabble, as Jillian said earlier, into different industries and different topics and things like that. So my biggest thing always when working with a new client is to really just research. Obviously, the main website for Sherman, I clicked around there for like over an hour, just reading through, kind of seeing what they were about. But I also looked into the field of chiropractic and kind of like the general curriculum of it, just because I feel like before you go on a discovery session, whether that's virtually or on campus, you need to have a good sense of what you're working with. So I would never recommend for anyone to go into discovery blind. So although Sherman was awesome, and I'm sure we'll get into it during their discovery and very open with us, we kind of had a good foundation walking in there. And I think that really contributed to the great working relationship that we have with them now.
Excellent, thank you. I know that, like you'd mentioned, when we were actually here on campus for the discovery, a big component of that was the SWOT analysis. And I know that, Darren, we've had conversations, and you said just how incredibly helpful that was just to set the stage and to really give insight into the Sherman team. But can you talk a little bit about kind of what we did and what were some of those benefits that ultimately, I think, launched really the work that we're doing with Sherman.
Yeah, so obviously we knew a lot of people in marketing in the field know what a SWOT analysis is. And usually your first thought is, oh Lord, why are we doing this? I do not want to do this. So, working with Rashida, our director of client service, we were brainstorming about it probably for like a week or so, just kind of thinking, how can we, one, make this interactive? Because I think, when you're in discovery meetings all day, your brain can get naturally a little tired, and then it's kind of awkward talking about your weaknesses and your threats, alongside the strengths and opportunities, especially when you're in the same room as maybe your boss or like very high leadership at a college, and then we're all up in your business like, hey, can you talk about things that really are not working well? And you're like, no, don't ask me that right now. So we did it with post-it notes. So we had a section in the room on the boards and some of the walls for each part of the SWOT. And then we asked a question, MediaCross asked questions. And for each question, everyone wrote down their answers on their individual post-it notes and then went up and posted them on the wall. So then after that, Rashida talked through, the themes that came out of that. And then it just really created a safe space for everyone to be open and honest. And we gathered so much information just from that one session alone that we use and we're still using in their marketing today.
Awesome, thank you.
Mhm.
And Dr. Jillian, was there any takeaways for you? I know that sometimes SWOT analysis, it feels a little bit like you're kind of saying the same things, but I've been surprised in the past with when I've been on a campus that certain things kind of rise that you're like, oh, I didn't know that, or I didn't see that coming.
It was a really interesting experience for me, basically, and I just laughed while Darian was talking about the post-it notes because I had all the ones that were underneath like the threats and weaknesses, like that seemed to be like where Jillian's post-its added like were, because I knew that we were falling short in certain things, and when I saw other people put kind of similar answers underneath those opportunities, I knew like, okay, we know we have a problem. We have people here that are going to help us address those problems. And as a result of that, we now have a more robust Marcom team. We have somebody who does digital specifically. We have somebody who does a lot of our print and writing as a manager. We have our director role. And then we also added an alumni relations position based off of the recommendations of MediaCross too. So it was very fruitful for us to kind of look at, you guys deal with higher education folks every day. We're in our own little world. What are other people doing that we can maybe implement to be successful? So having an external view, like vantage point, was very helpful for us.
I think it's so important because a lot of times when you are on a campus, you can't see the forest through the trees,
Yeah.
right? Like you get into the grind of, that you've got to have an open house that coming up, you've got campus, like you've got all these things that you got to get through. And sometimes it's hard to take a moment and step back. And that's kind of what I really love about the SWOT analysis is that it does give you the opportunity. But one thing I will say that I really want to applaud your team is that honesty.
Yeah, we
and
are honest.
That's tough. It's tough to be, especially, I mean, we were fairly still a new relationship, right? So you've got somebody new coming in, and you are told that you have to like share your weaknesses in front of your entire team and your boss, and that can be hard, but it's such a critical piece to be able to say, we're not perfect. We need help. We need opportunities. It's a much more fruitful conversation to have it that way than for people to be like, no, we're great. We don't
Well,
need
and
that.
that comes in your leadership, really promoting an environment of psychological safety, right? Like I feel, especially on my team in institutional advancement, I want, if they have an idea, if they, if something's not working right, we got to talk about it. So
Mhm.
creating that psychological safety is key in when you're doing that exercise for sure.
Yeah, I think it's such an opportunity to really kind of set yourself up for success. So yeah, you all really did very, very well with that.
Yeah.
Now your students are it's an interesting kind of conundrum. They're almost a niche within a niche,
Yes.
right? So how like identifying students, and let's talk a little bit about, how do we find these students and how do we, we have created beautiful work, which I'll talk
Yes.
about here in just a second. But how do you find the students, or and this question is for you, Darian, as well, too, is how do you find such a needle in a haystack?
So we basically say that we have three different types of students. The first one is what we call a traditional student. They have found us because they know they want to go to grad school. They're looking at options, in a healthcare, maybe,
Mhm.
it's not chiropractic, but maybe it's pharmacy or PT, whatever the case may be. We have what we call connected students. Those are students who maybe they have a chiropractor that went to school here. Maybe they know somebody that supports the college and recommended the college to them. We have a very robust program called our Reach Out and Recruit program that helps us find students who might be great chiropractors and sends them our way. And then we have what we call career changers. They're people who usually started down a path and they had an experience with chiropractic that changed their life and they decided that they wanted to do that for the rest of their life. So those are pretty much the three main ways. Our philosophy in terms of what we really hone in on here at Sherman College is making sure that the chiropractic that we provide our students, provide our community, is based in what we call the chiropractic philosophy, from above down, inside and out, and what that means for each individual person. So yeah, we're a niche within a niche.
So, Darian, how has that influenced kind of the work that you're doing? And tell us a little bit about the process in terms of, high school students obviously are probably, I don't want to say the easiest because they're definitely not easy,
Right.
but we know where they're at, right? We know where between typically the hours of like 8 and 3, we know their location, we know where they're going to be. And so, obviously, that population putting it aside, but how do you find these others? How is that project or how has that process been for you, Darian?
Yeah, so much of what we did, which I love that MediaCross does this, and Jillian kind of touched on a little bit about their above, down, inside out philosophy. We actually share that philosophy internally with our teams who are working on the digital creative or the digital marketing so they can understand the purpose behind the work that they're doing for Sherman. And we do it for other colleges too. But one, I was very particular about sharing those specific finite details about what Sherman stands for, what their different audience groups were, like no matter who was touching their account, because it is a niche inside of a niche. So they needed the more detail I could provide, and Sherman obviously gave us more than enough that really helped our teams decide, okay, if these are career changers, where can we reach them? And Sherman brought up something like MCAT testing. So maybe people who are in the healthcare field, maybe they didn't pass it and they want to switch somewhere else to a different career. Maybe that career is chiropractic. So in some of our ads and quite a few of the ads, we've done some MCAT targeting for the like specific testing locations, trying to grab students there. Sherman is very active in their community, so that always helps. But in general, for all of their audience groups, we take kind of key demographics, whether that's ages, maybe even some of their parents or people who are searching, like browsing audiences, searching chiropractic. We take all of those details and try to drill down as much as we can to find the most quality leads for their program.
Awesome. Thank you. I think that's such a valuable point to be a true partner, right?
Yeah.
So that is where obviously we've got, and we as MediaCross have an extensive experience in terms of digital and marketing and being in the higher ed space. But when you are a niche within a niche, y'all are really truly the subject matter experts.
Yeah.
And so I think that while again, we know the ins and out, having that insider view and saying, hey, this is possibly a good opportunity that, MCATs, for instance, that we can really maybe dive in a little bit deeper and find a channel there, because that may be information that we're just not privy to,
Right.
because we don't work with this audiences as much as say your traditional high school student. So I think it's important that it truly is a partnership. It's not just a one-sided, and I think that that's where we found a lot of successes.
I would agree. I really appreciated the time that you guys took to understand who our people were,
Mhm.
and kind of think outside of the box, right? So, the targeting of people who may be interested in that career, it is something I thought would be helpful at some point, but I couldn't implement it by myself. So, I mean, it's a true partnership, which has worked really well for us.
And it also helped because Sherman, you guys are so open and available to educate people who maybe don't know a lick about chiropractic or maybe are interested and don't know where to start, a lot of their marketing is educating their target audience about who they are, what they stand for. And I think having those details out there ready for people to consume and really take in, that generates so much interest within your target audience. And it shows, the authenticity of Sherman.
So let's get to the creative. And I think this is something we've passed around our teams. I know obviously the Sherman community has, and I want to talk about kind of how you release this information as well too. But Dr. Jillian, what was your initial response when the first time that you start to actually see the artwork and the visuals coming together? I know as MediaCross, we often, of course, we love everything that we do. We think we're wonderful, but it's always a little nerve-wracking when you start to hand over some of that to the client. And so tell us a little bit about, just the initial thoughts that you had.
Yeah. So when I saw, I mean, you guys had a couple of different pitches, right? And when I saw the one that ended up being like a modern take on the spine in terms of like the graphic, I just, in my mind, immediately thought, here are all these places that we can use that to unify this message in other places. So for me, it was modern. It was to a point where you knew what it is, but it didn't exactly look like that. It was eye-catching. All of those things kind of worked together to form what it was. And I'll never forget when I don't know why I was having such a hard time visualizing the way digital ads work, where the words change. Like we were
Yeah.
seeing like one word, right? And I was like, okay,
Mhm.
that's fine. And then I saw the one that was in motion. I was like,
Yeah.
oh my God, it's so
So we sent her like the static version of the display ads, and Jillian was like, I like it, I think.
yeah.
But I'm still like, I was picking up. I'm like, I don't think she's seeing what we're seeing. So then I sent her the GIF version, so them moving and actually animated. And she was like, yeah, now I love it.
I was just having a visualization problem with that. But once I saw that, I was like, of course, like it makes sense. And it is what we want our audience to
Mhm.
understand and to capture about Sherman College in one specific little ad.
It really is. It probably might be some of my favorite creative that I think that I've seen us do. And I say that I was a client of MediaCross, right? Like I used to be on the college side. It is just, I mean, it truly, and I'm on campus today. And as I am experiencing campus, I think for the second time, and now having seen the visual and then also what campus looks like, it just feels like you.
Yeah.
And so I look at, the hallways here, which are beautiful and really convey, I think, the message. And it just feels right. And so it's nice to see that collaboration when everything aligns perfectly. And at the end of the day,
Absolutely.
you've got beautiful creative.
For sure.
So usually, we did, years ago when I was on the campus, we did a kind of brand refresh, if you will. And so we kind of went through the process of it, and they really harped on how important it was for the campus community and your community as a whole to really embrace and get around this. And while the work that we did with Sherman wasn't necessarily a refresh or a rebrand, I loved your approach to really bring in the campus community and really, again, the community as a whole. Can you talk a little bit about what y'all did once we released some of that creative?
Yeah. So I remember I was meeting with my boss actually. She said, because she was at the Discovery Day also, and she said, I would love to throw a little party for the people that were involved in the Discovery Day, have kind of had a little hand in the process so they can see what they helped create. And eventually, between me, her, and Kendra, that evolved into let's just invite the whole campus.
Let's just throw a
Not
party.
the whole campus. We invited all of the employees, and then we invited our student ambassadors. So not all of the students, because we knew they wouldn't all care. But so we thought, we'll have like 60% of people show up that we invite, and it'll be great. They'll see what they help do. They'll see kind of what to expect. We had almost 90% people come that we invited because they were, we truly wanted them to understand why we're doing what we're doing, how we're doing what we're doing, that we're invested in making sure they have students to teach, that they have students that are going to be coming for tours, those types of things. And we wanted to roll it out to everyone. And not only we didn't stop there. We decided to have some competitions that day where we gave away prizes for employees who shared our graphic to our microsite. We gave away prizes to students and to alumni who shared our graphic as a part of that launch day. So we really made it for an event for all of our different communities, not just the one that's here on campus.
I think it's super exciting. I mean, it's so much of the work that, marketing enrollment goes unseen, right? It's just even to the extent of the digital ads that we're producing and that we're putting out into the world, 99% of the time we're trying to eliminate, right? We don't want our community getting those ads because that's just costing us more dollars.
Right.
And so I think it's so brilliant, and I don't think it's done enough to be able to open it up to the community and say, this is what we're doing, this is what we're excited about, and here's what we're doing and why we're doing it.
Well, and you think about it, right? So we're recruiting those students are going to come to a visit. We want our faculty to be engaged in that visit. We have several of them that do presentations during those visits. So if they can really get on board with what it is that we're trying to do, the message we're trying to create for those students to really just convey who we are, it's nothing more than that, nothing less, then we're doing what we need to do as an organization.
Sure. So what's next?
That's a great question. For us on our side, and I'll let Darian talk about their side. I don't know if they have anything new and exciting. But for us, it's looking at, of the work that we're doing with you guys, what is really doing well in terms of bringing us what we call a qualified lead. So somebody who, maybe they don't know all about chiropractic, but they're at least in a place in their life where they can make a decision of that's what I want to do, and then start taking the final steps to get there. So kind of just honing in and really kind of looking at the ads and making sure that they're hitting the targets the way that we want to. And then we're converting them once we get them in the funnel, right? Now we're converting them with our messaging, we're converting them with our invitations into students. So that's really kind of the next piece of the process, at least from our side.
Yeah, it's much of the same on our end, just in a different format, obviously, but we're deep into their digital marketing campaign. So we're live, launching, concluding, reporting, optimizing. So that's what we'll be doing and continuing to do with those reporting meetings with Sherman every month or so. We're doing that over the next 6 months. Yep.
And what's great is because, they suggested for what our department might look like, we have somebody that's ready to kind of take the helm of what we've started with y'all. And it's not just, we're going to stop like as soon as our relationship with you ends. Like we'll be able to continue and really kind of do what we need to do moving forward. So that's going to be a huge help for us too.
Absolutely. And I love that it doesn't end with the view or the click through. And that's, I think, from both sides of it, is at the end of the day, when we are able to tie it to enrollment, that's when I think MediaCross does its best work, is that it's great to be able to have the engagement numbers and to be able to report on them. And they're great indicators, but it doesn't stop at the views. It doesn't stop at they filled out an inquiry form, they went to the landing page, which is beautiful, but maybe they didn't do anything. It's always going back and saying, okay, what is it that we're doing? Is it getting us the results that we want? And at the end of the day, is it a student in the seat?
Yeah.
And that, I think, having that as the core of what you're doing and why you're doing, I think is such an important piece of it. And it's great to not have to educate a client in that fashion, right? Like it's great to be able to say, no, at the end of the day, this is what we need. And yeah, again, the indicators are great for the views and impressions and the engagement, but it's ultimately at the end of the day, it is a student in the seat.
Absolutely. And that's what we're looking forward to. I mean, usually for our students in our pipeline, it's a year, maybe even almost 2 out. Like that's just how our enrollment cycle works with our prospects. So 2023, let's go. We want to see, what difference this is making. Cause I really do truly believe that it is already.
Absolutely. And it's so funny how, in the realm of admissions and marketing, that we're already a year ahead, right? Like we're already 2023. Let's have a conversation about 2024. Get through 22, please. Can we just pause for a second? So is the world of admissions and marketing.
So true.
Well, is there anything that y'all would like that we didn't touch on, or that you'd like to address or talk about?
I have worked with some outside partners on projects like this, and it's truly been a great experience with y'all. So I do appreciate that. When you sign on, you kind of don't really know what to expect. You obviously take that leap of faith, like hoping that they're going to be the right partner for you. And it really, really was the right decision for us. So I'm really grateful that we moved forward, and here we are today.
Well, Dr. Jillian, Darian, thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks.
My pleasure.